Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down UFC 319, Dricus Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. I'm just going to go through the fights on the main card, give some analysis, and make my predictions. This is such a great fight card from the early prelims to the main card. It's definitely one of my most anticipated cards of the year, and I'm sure that's the case for most people. The first fight on the main card is Kai Asakura versus Tim Elliott. Asakura is going to be looking to get his first UFC win and his second fight. In his last fight, he challenged for the title against Pantoja and lost via second round submission. I believe it was in the second round. Tim Elliott, on the other hand, is coming off of a bit of a hiatus. He hasn't fought in almost 2 years, and he's coming off of a submission win. You can expect Asakura to try to keep this fight standing and land some massive shots on the feet, while Tim Elliott is likely going to be trying to take the fight to the ground and get a submission game going. I'm going to give the edge to Kai Asakura, and I'm predicting him to win by knockout. He's the younger, fresher, and more explosive fighter, and he is such a powerful striker, and I'm trusting him to find the finish on the feet. He did come up short in his last fight, but he was facing Pantoja, who's been running through all the top flyweights, so I'm expecting him to have made the adjustments from that fight and come back better. The next fight we have is one that I'm really looking forward to. We have Michael Venom Page versus Jared Cannonier. MVP on his run in the UFC so far has been one of my favorite fighters to watch. I think his striking style is so entertaining. He's just so elusive and fast and hard to get to, and he closes the distance on people and hits them in the blink of an eye. Jared Cannonier is a great fighter. He prefers to keep fights on the feet. He can lean on his grappling when he needs to, but it's not his strong suit. He has a ton of power in his hands, and he's a solid striker with more of an emphasis on his boxing. Although MVP has fought to decisions in all of his UFC fights, I am predicting him to finally get a knockout in this one. I think that his speed is going to be way too much for Cannonier. And as well as being way faster, in my opinion, I think that his timing is also going to be a big difference maker. I believe that Cannonier is going to try to close the distance and get into the clinch and get his grappling going. But it's so hard to close that distance on MVP, and I think that he's going to get caught with something while he tries to do that. Cannonier's ability to take shots hasn't been great in his last few fights. He is extremely tough, but I can definitely see him getting put down by a really well-timed punch, maybe even a flying knee or some sort of spinning kick. And if he is able to close the distance without getting caught by something like that, I'm going to trust in MVP's ground game. It's something that he's clearly been working on very hard, and I think he'll be able to survive any grappling exchanges that present themselves. Up next is Carlos Prates versus Jeff Neal. This has been a pretty hard fight for me to predict. Stylistically, I feel like this matchup can prove some problems to Carlos Prates. He has struggled fighting on the back foot, and that's what ultimately led to his downfall in the last fight against Ian Gary. When he's pressed backwards with a lot of pressure, he shells up and focuses on defending the strikes rather than countering, which sometimes leads him to taking some pretty big shots. Jeff Neal fights very well going forward, and he has great boxing combinations when he's doing so. Despite this, I'm trusting in Prates and his team that he made the requisite adjustments from the last fight. There are some great minds in that camp, so I'm sure that they saw the mistakes that they made in that last fight, and I'm sure that they're making the appropriate adjustments. I think that Prates is going to use his length, his reach, and that insane power to get a knockout in this fight against Jeff Neal. Next up is the co-main event, Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. This is a very interesting matchup, and I'm honestly surprised that they have Pico listed as the favorite. He does have great wrestling and really good boxing with insane power, but I think that Lerone Murphy just has the sharper and more technical striking. He's very defensively sound. The only area where I see him having problems is with the takedown defense. He's sitting at a 52% takedown defense record, which isn't great. But since he knows that he's going against such a high-level wrestler, I'm assuming that that's something that he's been working on in this camp. It's always hard to tell how someone's going to do when they're coming in from another organization into the UFC, but the history has showed that most of the time the UFC fighter comes out on top. I believe that Lerone Murphy's going to show the levels to the fight game, and that he's going to win a decision pretty comfortably. I do believe that Pico could have a lot of success in the UFC, but I think that this might just be too much too soon. Now on to the main event, Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. This is an incredible matchup, and it's been something that I've been thinking about for months. All I've been doing is flip-flopping on who I think's going to win and how they're going to win. It's really been one of the hardest fights for me to predict. Khamzat is an absolute monster in the grappling and the wrestling, and Dricus is a very well-rounded fighter who can fight everywhere and has incredible finishing ability. As well as being incredibly well-rounded, Dricus has shown very high fight IQ. Even though his fighting style doesn't look pretty, the way that he prepares for his fights is incredible. In his last 4 fights, he's game planned perfectly, and it led him to victory in each one. But Khamzat has looked like an unstoppable force in his UFC run. He shoots his takedowns from so far out, and he gets to them so quickly. And once he's on top, he doesn't let you go. He hits you with devastating ground and pound and looks for submissions relentlessly. At the start of every Khamzat Chimaev fight, you know that there's going to be an early sprint and an early onslaught. And most of the time, the fighter does not escape the early onslaught. I am predicting an upset in this fight. I'm going to go with Dricus du Plessis by TKO. I'm going to trust that he's going to be able to find the defensive holes in Khamzat's striking game because they are there and they do present themselves. And I'm also going to trust that with his grappling, his strength, and his grit, that he's going to be able to survive the early onslaught from Khamzat. I know it's been a really big narrative and it's been oversaid leading up to this fight, but I do believe that Dricus is going to be able to take control after the first and second round, because Khamzat's shots do visibly slow down after those early rounds. I do believe he'll still have success with the grappling after round 1, but early on, he seems like a puzzle that nobody can solve on the ground. Something that is slightly worrying is the fact that Dricus has 50% takedown defense. But I think that this is something that he's going to be aware of and he's going to adjust to. I'm expecting him to come out, maybe not rely on his high guard as much, because if he does, he's definitely going to get double-legged right after Khamzat throws shots. Khamzat's very proactive with his takedowns, so I believe that that's something that will allow Dricus to see them coming better and to defend. I believe that Dricus is going to shock the world again and show that he's one of the best middleweights to ever do it. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and comment your predictions. It's such a fantastic card, and I'm really curious to see what everybody makes of all these great matchups. Thank you again for watching. Bye.